We're kind of matching as well. No, kind of. This way, sorry.
Yeah, we
in
can.
the road. It's like an indie film, isn't it?
You can go far, yeah.
I like it. I like
good.
it. Yeah.
Well, Zarah Sultana.
In Cambridge.
In Cambridge for the first time?
No, I came when I was a teenager for a summer school at some point. But that was half my life ago.
Really?
Yeah. So it's been a while. It's nice, and it's sunny.
How was it being a teenager back in Birmingham or Coventry?
Birmingham.
Yeah.
I grew up in Birmingham, and went to school there. Went to university there, and then got involved in student politics around Palestine, around free education. And got involved with the National Union of Students, the Black Students Campaign, worked on Prevent, Deaths in Police Custody, passing BDS, and then obviously, car, but you'll be okay.
So arriving in Cambridge, obviously Cambridge has been notorious in terms of your party branch formation.
I've been so impressed. There's over 200 proto branches across the country.
Indeed, yeah.
People with no data, no resources, have organised meetings, have printed leaflets, have held stalls, have held events across the country to build this party and organise. And I'm in absolute awe. And I just think if they had data, if they knew who their members were, if they could communicate with their members and send emails, if they could pay for venues and leaflets without having to have a bucket at the end of an event or crowdfund, I just think, the sky's the limit in terms of the mobilising and the organising they can do.
So what's going on there? Is it just a lack of resources or strategic thinking?
We've got 60,000 members, so
yeah, exactly.
So it's not a lack of resources.
And £100,000 in the bank every month, right? So, but there's a constant blaming on the lack of enough hours in the day for the good-hearted volunteers to work on things, to protect data, to email back complaints.
It is bullshit. Those of us who have been in other political parties know that you can provide data in a safe and secure way through data agreements with officers in branches, and it's done according to GDPR. So anyone trying to spin that this would be an issue is lying, and we should call it out.
So
it's about control.
What happens?
It's about stopping members from being able to organise, from being able to have actual power, because there are some people who still want a top-down party machine. And if you empower members and if you give them the data and if you give them the resources, they'll just get on with it. And that means the top isn't able to concentrate power and control.
What happens on day one? Grassroots Left are promising a 50% of the members' fees straight to the branches.
Yes.
Full data access.
Yes.
What happens on day one? How does the promise, your data, your branch, your party happen in practice?
We would have a CC meeting that would recognise, and we've got lists of all the proto branches. We recognise those branches. We provide them with the data in a safe and secure way with a data control agreement. We support them in creating a bank account to be able to safely transfer the money properly. This can all happen. It doesn't have to take a very long time, but the fact that it's taken months and there's been no action from the unelected interim leadership is disgraceful. So the day one recognising branches, providing them with the data, setting a bank account and being able to transfer. And the bank account, I think, is what's going to take slightly longer, but we need to start, and we needed to start ages ago. But at least we can start with a new CC that actually cares about members and then being empowered and resourced.
Great.
Thanks.
Let's go here.
Is this the venue?
Yeah, this is the venue.
Ah.
How does it happen in a constituency like Cambridge, where the divisions are deeper and more fractious than the national party? There's potentially 3, maybe 4 proto branches in Cambridge claiming to be your party, Cambridge. How do we heal those divisions, bring all of those groups together without one taking the lead in one direction or another?
It has to be democratic. Every single member has to be involved across all 3 or 4 proto branches, recognizing that you can't have a community split like that. And that means people who have perhaps appointed themselves as leaders have to recognize that it's not about them, it's about member democracy. So there needs to be a transparent democratic process to elect the officers for what I would say is a single branch in Cambridge. I don't think you're big enough to have 4 branches. When I think of bigger cities like Manchester, I can understand why you might have several, you might not have just one Greater Manchester branch. But it requires people coming together despite disagreeing with each other, despite not particularly liking each other, knowing that the stakes are too high for us to fail. And that's not just at a national level, that's at a local level. If our branches don't come together, if we're not able to heal these divisions, how are we going to run in local elections? How are we going to mobilise around the NHS and campaign and fight fascists when they come to our cities and towns? So it's about recognising that this is bigger than any of us, and it requires people to not agree with each other. I think actually disagreeing with each other is healthy. It's a bit weird if we all agreed with each other, but knowing that this is about a bigger political project to stop the far right gaining power, but to also support our community. So there has to be an understanding. I think if the process requires people just expressing their issues, and there has to be a way out of that. We can't just entrench ourselves in these positions. And I think the party nationally has to have a unifying approach. So that's why I think it's important that the Grassroots Left slate is endorsing Jeremy, recognising that both co-founders have to play a part in the collective leadership. It's a shame that obviously the many slate don't recognise that. But that's something that they would probably have to answer. But I think locally it requires leadership on a local level to put energy and effort into bringing people together.
At conference, we voted for a 20% numbers of members per constituency to inaugurate a branch.
Yes.
In Cambridge, that would be out of 200 people, 20% would be 40 members. Given that there are 2 or 3 groups hoping to claim your party, Cambridge, as their own, there may be a race to see what group of 40 people inaugurate the branch first. How do we deal with that?
I think it's important that we're not building fiefdoms, that we are building an inclusive, democratic culture. And if it is obvious that there are underhanded things going on, I think we need to have processes within the party to challenge, to stop undemocratic behaviour that is actually going to harm the party and local members. Yes. My experience in our job is to unite the left. We need to be the political home for all of the left. If you're a socialist, you're welcome. It is as simple as that. I am not interested in building a political party where someone's job is to look through people's social media and see who they're speaking with and what tweets they're liking and then expelling them. That is a toxic political culture. That's what the Labour right do, and it has no place in our party. Thank you for being here. Thank you for building this party from the ground up. This election is crucial. Do we want a party that is run from the very top by an unaccountable, unelected group of people, or a party that is led by its members? Do we want a party that recognises the importance of the picket line? Palestine demonstrations, fighting fascists and organising with tenants? These are the questions that we have to answer over this election. The Grassroots Left slate is the only slate that is promising real democracy, real accountability and real power for members and branches. Thank you so much.
Zarah Sultana, your
Inacio.
party MP for Coventry South.
Yes.
That's amazing. Like, you're the only your party MP.
Yes,
How
we
was that?
all were contacted by the Speaker's office and had the ability to say yes to being listed as a Your Party MP. I'm the only one that said yes to that. And that's why I'm the only Your Party MP in Parliament.
I sense a feeling of duty and responsibility to move the movement along.
We have the risk of a far right government coming into power. We see politicians that have constantly served the interests of billionaires, corporations, anyone but their actual constituents. And so out of sheer fear and worry and concern about a Nigel Farage government, this is me using whatever political capital I have to build a party that will actually advance the cause of socialism, build power in our communities and provide a socialist, anti-imperialist alternative to our communities that are desperately looking for that alternative.
On the other side of the story, management of information has been poor, to say the least. I investigate data. There's obviously at least 2 leaks. I call them leaks, but there's information that was exposed by the party accidentally. I don't think that was the intention, but obviously someone has access to that sort of information, that very rich type of information, number of votes, where members are concentrated, etc. In an election, you would claim that to be a massive asymmetry and a disadvantage, or perhaps an advantage for one of the sides. How do you see that?
There is definite asymmetry in this election. There are people running on the many slate that are involved in the current leadership, who are setting the rules, who have access to the data, who are able to send out emails, who are able to have access to a social media account. And that means everyone else running, including independent candidates, are disadvantaged. It's like all candidates should have been able to send an email out to the membership. There are things that could have been done to address this imbalance. Clearly, there hasn't been any interest in addressing that. So I do think there are concerns. I personally have concerns around oversight of postal ballots. How are they being recorded? Is there constantly, oversight of that process to avoid any manipulation, any duplication? And we have seen in other political parties often how postal votes are used to create, I would say, discrepancies in voting.
Yeah, it's a very unusual election, not one that I've heard before, to have the 3 members of the Independent Alliance
Running as candidates.
Organising the election, first and foremost, being responsible for selecting the referees, the returning officer, Andrew Jordan, and the treasurer, Marion Roberts, who's also responsible for the appeals. And then, without anybody asking for any further overseeing of the election, the leadership made an offering which seemed relatively reasonable, or at least showed some sense of understanding of the power balance, and made an offering in the name of the members oversight committee. Members of the oversight committee were supposed to offer a small level of oversight of the election. So this referee player situation that I mentioned before was not so blatant and so problematic. So therefore, 5 members would be selected and would oversee the election. We don't know who they are. There's petitions out that
3 have been named.
That ask for them to be named. 3 have now been named. 2 are still
Unknown.
Anonymous, to put it mildly. How do you feel about this?
I think it's concerning. The fact that the oversight committee also had people dropped after phone calls and without any explanation is also a cause for concern, as well as members who have been expelled in the process of this election while they have already been endorsed and are standing as candidates. It is really concerning.
But on the question of dual membership, what is your view with regards to the false dichotomy that was offered to the membership? We were offered a option of no dual membership or yes membership, but with a list. What would you propose going forward that the dual membership? How would you propose going forward that the dual membership should be dealt with?
I think the way questions were framed to the membership over conference was concerning. The choice, like you said, was incredibly limited. And I think the spirit of what members want is an open, inclusive socialist party that welcomes all socialists and is a political home for all socialists. It's our job to unite the left. There are people who also read, well, does that mean you'll accept reform voters? I'm sorry, not reform voters, reform supporters. I can't imagine reform supporters joining your party.
How many reform supporters have been expelled from your party?
As far as I know, 0. It's a complete red herring argument. It's disingenuous. And also, if we have situations where there are people involved in parties and organizations that go against our values, against what we believe in, then there has to be processes, a code of conduct, a disciplinary process that addresses that, where you can actually expel people through a disciplinary process rather than prescribing organizations.
I remember you very vividly in 2 crucial moments over your more recent career. There's an interview with Navarra where you were suffering a lot of racism in Parliament and you were very emotional and hurt. Then I saw a very different Zarah in the summer last year. Came out swinging, as friends of mine like to say, and it was very powerful and very inspiring. What's the Mona now? What's the Zarah now?
I am someone who has been deeply affected by the briefings to the right-wing press, by the lawfare that has been used against me, by the smears, by the bullying. But I'm also someone who refuses to give in to bullies, who refuses to be intimidated, who refuses to be used in a tokenistic way. I'm from an area of Birmingham called Los Alls, and you don't give up without a fight. So I have to stand up to injustice wherever that takes place. And I think that over the past few months, the way that the smears, the sabotage before BBC Question Time, the way that tropes have been used against me, that I'm impulsive, I'm angry, I'm crazy. I think they are disgusting. Everything that I've done has been for members to be in control of this party, for MPs not to be running a socialist party, but members to be running it, for there to be democracy that flows to the party. And because I've challenged other people's control and power, I've been on the receiving end of those attacks. But that has made me even more committed to party democracy, ensuring that power lies with members.
The future. There's obviously three situations that may play out. Grassroots Left slate may win a majority.
Inshallah.
There are concerns, obviously, because there's reports that the many may just walk.
It's not very democratic.
The other scenario may be that the many win and therefore have a very tight hand on the wheel, and that's concerning from a democratic, from the perspective of party democracy, in my opinion. And there's the possibility of a stalemate. How do you see these three situations playing out?
I think it's important that regardless of what happens with these elections, people are committed to member democracy. Now that we have shed a light on the issues of access to data, resources, the way branches have been disrespected, the fact that Manchester, Gorton, Denton didn't have a Your Party candidate, that there's a risk that there might not be local election candidates from Your Party in May 2026. People have to keep highlighting those issues and holding people to account. But in the other scenarios that you mentioned, we still have to keep going. We have to hold the collective leadership team to account regardless. And so our supporters can't just, log off. They've got to keep organising, because there is no other explicitly socialist anti-imperialist party that is going to be on the picket line, be at the anti-fascist demonstrations, that's committed to building power and fighting reform. And so if you believe in that vision, you've got to keep going.
Thanks.
Thank you. Are we doing that again? Yes.